This brings to our new lecture on the series of data mining. So we'll talk about the knowledge which we are gaining from our data mining. The first point is sequence, trend, and evaluation analysis. So trend is what basically? So what the product or the services will drastically change in future in and in what manner, and the deviation analysis, like if the sales are growing on in a particular season, like we can talk about like woolen clothes. Everyone buys woolen clothes at the beginning of the season, and in summer the sale of woolen clothes is almost negligible. So when you analyze the data, there is a deviation in the value, but you don't know actually what's the reason behind it. If we talk about in terms of our system analyzes the problem, so you might be knowing the reason but the system doesn't. But what actually it can do, it can make sure that if you provide proper data like temperature, months, it can analyze that during this period the sale is actually less. So what regression is, the regression is a basically fitting the model into in the form of a equation. So if we know the values of the equation, we can calculate the output, which will result in value prediction. Now we'll talk about sequential pattern mining. So sequential pattern mining basically means what will be the first thing and how it will be proceeding. Like a person is not going to buy a cover for a bike until he doesn't know which bike he is going to buy. So first he buys the bike and then he buys the cover. So this is known as sequential pattern mining. Then comes the periodicity analysis. In periodicity analysis, we observe that after a certain period of time, the trend is similar. Like if you look at the sine wave, it's going up, then coming down, then going up. So it periodically repeats itself. So what we need to analyze is to identify the periodicity of our analysis, and based on that, what we can do, we can make the future prediction of what it is going to be in the future. Now we talk about similarity based analysis. So similarity based analysis basically means like if the price of one commodity is going upwards, then the commodity is related to the basic item, or the commodities which depend on the basic item will go up. Like if the price of crude is going to increase, the prices of petrol also increase. So if we can make the analysis on the crude prices, then we can make the analysis on the price of the petrol. Then we'll talk about mining data streams. So data streams are basically the data which is generated in the form of streams regularly, which needs to be analyzed. You must have heard the term Apache Spark and Hadoop. So basic difference between Apache Hadoop and Spark is the Spark is capable of performing runtime analytics on data streams which are being generated. So it you actually doesn't need to store every data which is not as much required in the future, so that you can just apply the mining on the runtime stream and you do not need to require to save the actual data stream. Now we'll talk about structure and network analysis. First is the graph mining. In many cases, what we can do, we can convert a problem in the form of a graph, and then we can find frequent subgraphs, matlab where the problem is coming repeatedly, or converted into tree-like structure or substructure of a problem. So what actually it does, it creates a sub problem of a problem which we are able to solve efficiently and properly. Then comes the information network. So everyone knows social network. There are like an actor or an just consider myself. I have multiple friends on Facebook. So what relation that exists between me and my friends, that can be analyzed based on the chats or what I comment on their status or how many photos that I like or not. So all can be analyzed. Now we'll talk about multiple heterogeneous network. There are various sites which takes data from one site to another site, or they basically extract data from a site. So what they are doing is basically they are extracting the data from a different website and putting the data on their own site. So they are extracting, and what actually they forms is basically a heterogeneous network where they are just extracting the data without the prior knowledge of what the actual architecture of the other network is. And link may also carry semantic information like what actually is going on inside can be analyzed via the link. How much information that can travel through link can provide us a brief idea of what is going in the background. And web mining, you might be knowing, when you search anything on Google, there is a list in which the results are displayed, which is basically known as PageRank. So PageRank basically is based on generally the number of hits. The page which gets most hit, most time spent, is usually displayed on the top, uh, from the consideration that it might be displaying some valuable information. So from the mining perspective, if a page is accessed a lot of time and people are spending time over it, then it might be the case that it is displaying the valuable information. So what actually we can do is we can make the page go upwards, so that if a person is searching for a relevant information related to a topic, that page must be displayed at the top, and the user can get the better, efficient and valuable information from the topmost page. And analysis of web information error, we need our opinion mining, like what should be, just consider an example, like it's going on social media, like who is going to win the next election, just share your opinion. Basically what that does is people analyzes your opinion, your comments, your profile based on any particular topic, and analyze what you must be thinking, your opinion might be, or what thing you like or what thing you don't like, via analysis of web information network. Now we'll talk about evaluation of knowledge. So our first question is, are all mind knowledge interesting? It's a complicated question, but the answer is no. One can mine enormous amount of data and can generate enormous amount of patterns. But the thing is, actually the all the patterns are not interesting. Basically, they are based on some dimensions and they are evaluated based on some dimensions. Like consider database of a warehouse store where people are entering in and taking a lot of stuff, like consider the case where a person is buying a cycle along with butter. But what actually happens is that the many of the transitions shows that a person buying a cycle is buying butter. Does that mean that cycle and butter are related? It's a definite no. But this can't be understood by the system because he doesn't have the domain knowledge of the cycle and the butter. So it's not necessary that all mind knowledge should be interesting. Now we'll talk about evaluation of mind knowledge. So when we mine with a specific perspective. Like if someone is going in a coal mine, he will be definitely going for coal. If someone is going in a gold mine, he will be going for gold. So what the basic thing is, the thing is that we know the aim, what we want to acquire, and we go with that perspective. So first is descriptive and predictive, that we know whether we need to classify two things or we need to predict a future value based on the data which we are gathering. That can be like coverage, how much coverage we can get from the data, what percentage or how much number is going to satisfy, or how much is the probability that we can say our decision has a surety of. Then typicality and novelty, accuracy and timeliness, these are all basically what we can achieve. And with the perspective we are talking about, like how much accuracy we want or at what duration of time we want the result. The next thing we want to talk about is data mining. So data mining is basically composed of multiple disciples. Like we can be using machine learning, pattern recognition, statistics, visualization, high performance computing, database technology, or some algorithms. What actually thing is that basically we have a basic aim, and for that particular aim we need to gather information and apply a suitable technique. So we will be requiring some domain knowledge, and we will be requiring the knowledge of disciples like machine learning or pattern recognition, so that we can identify which particular disciple will suit the complexity of our problem and will provide us with a better result. Now the question is, why multiple disciples? First thing is, we have a tremendous amount of data, so algorithm should be scalable in case where the data is too much, but in cases where data is not much, we can use a simple algorithm. So the amount of data also decide which manner we should go. Then comes the high dimensionality of data. So if the dimensions are low, a, a simple system can handle the problem. If there are multiple dimensions, then the complexity of the problem increases, and based on that our approach also changes. Now we will talk about high complexity of data. The data can be generated via multiple sensors sending a data to a central server, which has to observe the data from all and take appropriate action, or it can be the data streams which is generated every second. And just consider an example where a flight is going. A flight actually generates enormous amount of data which can't be handled by a combination of even 10 computers. There can be time series data like data of a share market, or temporal data, sequential data, structured data, graph data, social network data. So based on the multiple data sources with along with their applications, the type of mining is decided on what actually suits our environment. We can't just fix that this algorithm is best or this mining is best based on our assumptions without having the knowledge of the domain. Now we'll talk about the application of data mining. Web page analysis, we have talked about it before. Collaborative analysis and recommender system. You must have been seeing that if you like this, you will be liking this. So it is also an example of data mining based on the history of the previous user. Basket data analysis is basically analyzing what if one person is preferring something, what he will also be preferring based on the historical data. Then biological and medical data analysis, mining and software engineering, like it will provide you a basic introduction to all this and how they are related and how to handle. And major data mining system tools are basically your SAS, MS SQL Server, Oracle database, that are able to compete with the growing challenges in data mining. We'll talk about the issues now. So mining methodology, which algorithm to choose, which strategy use, whether it should be supervised or unsupervised, to what extent we should mine, to what, to include what attribute and exclude which attributes. All these require some insights or methodology which is not known to a user in a perfect manner. So he need to analyze the scenario, and he require the knowledge of the domain in order to identify which should be a better strategy. Then we'll talk about user interaction mining. So interactive mining is basically including the user in the mining process. So user must have the background knowledge, or if he doesn't have the background knowledge, then the system should have the adequate amount of knowledge to handle the lack of adequacy of the user. And finally, in user interaction, we need to predict and visualize the mining result in the manner in which the user can understand. And as you may be aware that the user can be of different level. So what capability or knowledge that a user has, it can be identified by a system. So the detail in which the result should be presented to a user is also a major issue. Efficiency and scalability. Efficiency basically deal with the accuracy or the time at which we can get the result, and scalability refers to the amount of data which a mining algorithm can handle. So these also include which algorithm can be efficient or scalable based on the requirement of the user. And there are methods in which we require parallel or distributed stream. Like if the data is generated from multiple sensor nodes and it's sent to a central server, so basically the data is generated in a distributed manner and it is sent parallelly to a central server. So instead of a single stream, there are multiple streams. So the algorithm which may be handling a single stream is different from a algorithm which is handling parallel and distributed stream. And then there is diversity of data type. They can be like our character data, integer data, float data. So we need to handle multiple types of data. And there is the another thing is like some data is stored on the sensor node level and some is sent to the server level. So at which level we need to mine depends on the requirement, and analyzing that requirement is the role of the system. So actually identifying what should be the level is an issue. Then we'll talk about data mining and society. There are several aspects like you can post something. You must be aware that you generally hide some photos from your parents or videos. Like you don't want to share the photos in your mobile phone which you are clicking, you are seeing. You don't share everything on social network. Why? There are some reasons behind that. Or you might be seeing that some contents are explicitly hidden from you. So what is this? This is basically social data mining. And why? Because we don't want to promote something which is not suitable for an intended usage. And then is privacy. We should be assured that the privacy of an individual is not hampered. Invisible data mining. Invisible data mining basically we are trying to focus on what actually is happening in the background and get a perfect feedback, but we are not able to identify what is going on. So it is a basic issue which needs to be dealt with. In case of any query, you can mail me at utsav@gweca.ac.in. I'll be looking forward for your queries, and please kindly go through Again and again I'm saying that kindly go through the textbook so that you can be able to get what we are trying to achieve here. With this, I'll end this lecture. Thank you all of you for listening or watching this video.